All right. Just 1 second.
Bear with us for a moment while we figure out. We just found a new bug in the protocol here. What's up? Can I get some feedback?
Okay.
So it's not our side.
I'm going to check those out.
Sorry.
No worries. This actually works well with my talk, so.
So, how does it go?
It's going great.
Do you want us to just start speaking?
Yeah, so I'll get started while we're waiting on slides and just give a quick intro of who I am and what our company does. So we're Peeps Democracy, where we're on a mission to make activism as easy as Uber Eats. And we're starting with activism by people who are crypto natives. So just as a little bit of background, we started on this journey about a year and a half ago, and we're launching our first DAO product pretty much today. So again, Peeps Democracy, making activism as easy as Uber Eats. So we see the world as kind of this messy, broken place. Kind of like Aaron talked about, there's a lot of dissatisfaction with politics, but I think that extends to the nonprofit sector, right? For 50 years, we kind of said, we'll let governments handle social change. And then probably about 20 years ago, we said, well, governments don't do a great job at actually manufacturing positive social change, so we'll let high net worth individuals and their foundations, like the Gates Foundation, kind of drive social and political change. And the results have been mixed, to say the least. And we think that kind of people hit this inflection point around 2016. And 2016 was for governance what 2009 was for banking, right? The collapse of the banking system woke people up and got them to start experimenting with cryptocurrencies. I would argue that Bitcoin was a response primarily to the financial crisis, and it's kind of built this amazing crypto universe 10 years later. 2016, with the election of Donald Trump and a bunch of outsider candidates around the world, and the surprises that those kind of shepherded in, people woke up in a similar way and thought like, okay, the system is safe, we just can fall asleep at the wheel, and these technocrats will do what we need them to do, and things will stay relatively broken, but not so broken that we're on the way to some sort of like post-apocalyptic future. That all changed, and the other change that happened at kind of the same time and has been happening for the last probably 10, 15 years is that social and political movements have become by their nature more decentralized and fluid. I think the great modern example of this would be Occupy Wall Street. Then you start with a Sunrise movement, that's a more recent example, right? People aren't attracted to these monolithic movements that are led by a single charismatic leader anymore. Instead, movements are emergent. They're coming from the bottom up, and they tend to come with a lot of small leaders, some of whom might emerge as kind of the face of the movement, or the movement might stay relatively decentralized like a Black Lives Matter did. You know, people want to take charge. They want to change the world. The problem is it's just hard to do it, right? The challenge is that when it comes to coordinating these decentralized or even just spread out movements, it's really hard. Everybody in a decentralized movement expects a voice and deserves a voice in the decision making. And success really depends on long-term engagement. The reason that lobbyists kind of 9 times out of 10 defeat ordinary people is because lobbyists play on a 5 to 10 year time horizon. Ordinary people, they go do the march, there are 100,000 people in DC, and then they go home and think like, we've been heard, it's done. And the reality is that any engagement and movement on that social issue that was driven by that march is going to peter out over the next year or two. So we want to leverage the power of DAOs for good. This fits within the original mission of, I think, the Moloch DAOs and some of the other grant-based DAOs that we've seen in the last year, right? Except those have been focused primarily on good for the Ethereum ecosystem and developer ecosystem. The challenge is that DAOs up until this point have been way too complicated, even for crypto natives to get. There's been poor communications within the DAOs. So I was a member of YangDAO, probably like a lot of you all. YangDAO lived in several places. It lived on chain, and then it also lived in a Telegram group, and then it kind of lived in a Discord group that never really got off the ground. And that makes it harder to keep up for people to stay engaged over the long run, which leads to this loss of momentum, which we kind of saw in YangDAO, where there was a lot of energy in that first month of launch. It kind of petered out, though there was a core group of people that kind of kept it alive, put up some great proposals, and ended up doing some really cool things with the 4,000 DAI or so that ended up in YangDAO. So, the current solutions fail again because they tend to require technical skills, or they're time consuming, or a problem that's near and dear to my heart based on my background as a lawyer and FEC compliance is they're not set up to be legally compliant, which means that until you have legally compliant DAOs, you're not going to get serious people to give lots of money to them just because the risk is too great. So the future is DAO, and that's why we created this platform, Peeps DAOs. So we let anybody easily launch a decentralized organization. Each DAO collects crypto for a cause. We're going to launch supporting DAI, wrapped ETH, and then a Peeps token, which is just for reputation. And then, like any other DAO, donations equal votes. So we can check it out really quickly if the screen cooperates. So this is Peeps DAO. You can check out the 2 DAOs I've created below. We've got Peeps Test Party DAO, which is really just our way of trying to figure out how to break shit. And then there's YangDAO 2, the Yangarang, since haven't given up on UBI or some of the kind of future policy pieces of the Yang platform. Let's see if he runs for Senate or governor or mayor somewhere. But these DAOs all live on the platform a little bit like DAO House. You can go to a particular DAO page, and then once it loads, you can request to join just by entering the amount of DAI that you'd like to contribute. The summoner or admins can then go to your membership profile and admit you as a member. If I were signed in as a summoner, I'd see a little admit button there. You can then create easy proposals that we track along the way. So I won't create proposals just because, as you guys know, it can take 15 to 30 seconds for something to write on chain. And then you can also see your account info. So this way, kind of you have your details in one place, and your account info actually differs from DAO to DAO, since one thing we wanted to be sensitive to is our DAOs are meant to fall into a couple of buckets. The first bucket is to serve as fundraising platforms for decentralized PACs and super PACs. So those are organizations where we need to collect a relatively high amount of information from you so that the summoners and admins can fulfill their FEC reporting obligations. The second bucket is what is lovingly called dark money, where you don't have to collect as much information. You still need kind of name, make sure you're a US citizen, but then that's all we collect. And then the final category, which we're really excited about, is kind of the everything else. So if you're trying to influence US elections, of course, you have to provide certain amounts of info. You can't accept money from non-US citizens. But then if you're trying to do something like global internet freedom or funding democracy activists in Nigeria or Hong Kong, we want to make sure that we're collecting minimal information just so that if we get hacked for some reason, people can't associate your donations with a real person. So we have kind of 3 tiers of the information that we collect from you guys. So let me go back to this. The foundations of our DAO are the Moloch v2 code, where we've added a simple factory, and we've also made changes so that our DAOs operate kind of within the more traditional nonprofit and political organization milieu. In the near future, we'll offer some open law forms to help with entity creation so that once you create a Peeps DAO, you can also easily spin up your own 501c4 or your own PAC or super PAC, which then you'll be responsible for filing with the right government entities. And then where we're different from a lot of the existing DAOs is we've done a lot less configuration, or we've put a lot of less configuration on the users, which means there's more defaults. In the near future, we'll kind of offer an advanced DAO creation path for people that really want to alter kind of the voting period lengths, that really want to alter the way rage quitting works, and so on and so forth. We've also made member onboarding easier. This is one where we had to trade off a little bit of decentralization for ease of use so that summoners and anyone who's invited as an admin can admit a member just with a single click. It doesn't have to go through a proposal process. That way, if somebody wants to join, they just have to put in their DAI and then wait for an admin to approve. So membership approval can go from a couple days down to a couple minutes. We also have kind of generally more powerful summoners and admins in the sense that they're able to pull the demographic and user information for their particular DAO so that they can do whatever kind of reporting they need to do. We also made it so that only admins can sponsor and process proposals, which is a little bit different from the Moloch v2 code where any member can do that work. Again, we're sacrificing decentralization a little bit for something that will allow these DAOs to work within kind of a existing political organization or nonprofit, just so you don't blow your tax status or get in trouble with the government. And all of the kind of compromises we've made with decentralization versus centralization of a DAO are all so that we can, again, fit into this 501c framework or a 527 political org framework. That said, while we've made compromises on some of the processing and sponsoring and admitting members, we did think it was relatively important to keep kicking out members completely decentralized, just out of fairness. So, we're not troll proof, and if there's a troll, you have to go through the guild kick vote. So, in terms of future plans, we are right now in kind of an open beta test period on the Rinkeby network. We would love everybody in this room to sign up, help us break our shit, help us figure out how to do some kind of better error handling for early DAO users. In March, we're launching on mainnet, and that means you guys will be able to play with fire, create causes, support causes using real crypto. We've got a couple communities that we're bootstrapping. One will be focused on cannabis liberalization. One will be focused on kind of civic tech and decentralized democracy tech. Another will be focused on crypto policy. And then starting the spring, the goal is just to grow and form as many active communities on our platform as possible. So questions, I'll be around. Please ask me anything. Please tell me where we're wrong or right. In the meantime, please visit our site at rinkeby.peepsdao.com, break our shit, let me know how it breaks, and we will forever be grateful to you. So, thank you guys.